John mentioned, like regimes say go in there and forcibly remove the Iranian regime. On the other hand, there are vast swaths of Iranian society that are dissatisfied with living under an Islamist tyranny. And those are people, I think, that are probably pro-Western, and that are people that we should have common cause with. So dealing with the sanctions element, cutting off the money, but then trying to empower, whether it's through social networks or other things, those people, isn't that a good policy? I mean, don't we want this regime to be weakened? It's not representative of the society, and there's people there that are trying to stand up to it, and we should have their back.
Mr. Chairman, it's not just good policy, it's U.S. policy as voted on by bipartisan majorities.
Yeah, we did. See what happens behind closed doors? Off everybody's radar. They didn't close the Iran deal.
For these issues in the appropriations committees.
Because they doing the Korean thing. They doing the North Korea project. They ain't care about Iran.
This is in a post-Iraq war environment, and the words regime change are to try to get some sort of gotcha moment of, do you want to invade? Do you want this to be like the war? There is no one on this panel, and certainly in the administration, who is coming anywhere near such a policy. That's not a policy. We need to look more at sort of a Cold War era policy. What was the Reagan administration's victory policy, rollback policy towards the Soviets? We definitely wanted behavioral change. We wanted to roll them back throughout the world. We want to see the same sort of behavioral change out of this regime, but we will also benefit greatly if one day, internally, peacefully, the people of Iran, people who are out in the streets, the people who are screaming out for freedom, for some sort of government that represents them, that makes their lives better.
In Iran, all they talk about is hating us. They don't have no plans of sitting down talking about no nuclear deal with the United States.
That's good for U.S.
Might. They've already been our enemy. They hate us. That president of Iran came here to the United States and told everybody off at that university. That man was like, y'all got homosexuality running around out here? We ain't got none where we at.
Mr. Goldberg, let me just start with you on this question of getting this regime change issue off the table, because no one seriously is talking about that. Have you ever heard of Josh Bolton?
Josh Bolton?
Or Mr. Bolton? What's his name?
John or Josh, the former chief of staff of the White House or the National Security Advisor. John Bolton, yes.
And on Fox News, he said that our goal should be regime change in Iran. Should I take him seriously or you seriously? This is a serious question. You just waved it away. He's the national security advisor for the president. He said to the American people that our goal should be regime change in Iran. Now, you just want to blow him away and say that he didn't mean it?
No, Congressman, I'd say multiple things.
What about Rudy Giuliani?
Did you want a response?
Look, I'm asking you to respond to whether we should take Mr. Bolton and now Mr. Giuliani seriously. Mr. Giuliani said that the president is as committed to regime change as we are. Do I take Mr. Giuliani seriously?
Congressman, are you for repression of the Iranian people, yes or no? No, I'm answering a serious question. Are you for the torture of people?
Oh, they going at it.
In this Congress, no one in this country that condones repression anywhere by any dictator in any country, and you know that. I'm asking the questions here. Rudy Giuliani.
Mr. Welch is upset with this young generation.
Regime change, and you don't have to answer it.
I would listen to the president.
Do they believe that Secretary Mattis was right, that there was no basis for trust? That's what there had to be very strong, verifiable inspections. Anyone disagree with that?
Yeah, I disagree.
All right. So you disagree, Mr. Albright and Mr. Pugin, you disagree. So you think this was based on trust?
I can cite President Obama on that.
I'm just asking.
I disagree that President Obama did that. One of the problems in the JC.
Blame Obama.
So your Obama administration became an advocate for Iranian non-compliance, and they would try to.
Mr. Albright, here's the question. There's nobody here, and I was in favor of all of the Iranian sanctions, by the way. all of the Iranian sanctions, and I was in favor of this agreement. Not that it was perfect, but it got rid of the nuclear weapons. Let me ask a question about this. What happens if Iran, under the agreement, it's been now torn up, Iran has the choice to resume its nuclear activities? Let me ask this question. What's the option for the United States should Iran aggressively restart its activities towards building a nuclear weapon? Who on the panel would favor the use of military action at that point? Just raise your hands. You would. Mr. Rubin?
As I detailed in my written testimony, there's episodes of overwhelming pressure that has caused Iran to back down. That's what led to the release of the hostages in 1981. That's what led to the end of the Iran-Iraq war. I'll let history be the precedent on this, Mr. Ranking Member.
Let me remember, the president, let me just finish a minute. The president has tweeted that it's time for change in Iran, and the Secretary of State wrote that Congress must act to change the Iranian behavior and ultimately the Iranian regime. And you, Dr. Rubin, I understand, written that regime change is the only strategy, short of military strikes, that will deny Iran a nuclear bomb. So this question about what the implications are of a torn-up deal are not idle questions. They're real. We're heading in a different direction. That's what's happening.
Are you?
Now, here's the other question. I understand you think assassination is a tool as well in your writing, and you were for that before it became, quote, pop.
That's woefully imprecise to what I said, Mr. Ranking Member. Would you care to say, I know the article you're referring to, would you like to specify?
My time is running out.
Okay, then be accurate.
Let me ask.
Ooh, they getting heated over here. Over for this Iran nuclear
What
deal.
our policy should be. Do any of you know what our policy is?
Yes.
And it is what? Where is it? How come I don't know? How come the chairman doesn't know?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member, I've heard most of my colleagues talk about why they don't like Iran and why they don't like the deal. That's fine. I'm sympathetic to many of the things they say. I've not heard anyone talk about the fact that we don't have a strategy and that the service is on a path to war, either by design, regime change, or we back into it as we respond to them a bit beginning to reinstall their nuclear program. I would like to hear a lot more from my friends about how we'll deal with that in the future, because that's what General Mattis, that's what General Dole and the others fear and have to prepare for. And talking about why I don't like Iran isn't really going to get us anywhere. By the way, and on this issue of the Iranians, who everyone professes such great concern for, the Iranian people are not happy with us. Muslim ban, number one. Number two, a poll came out last month that said, ask the Iranian people, this was a private poll, not a government poll, well, how should we respond to the U.S. pulling out? This was a prospective poll. 67% of the Iranians said that Iran should retaliate. Why? Because they're rallying around their flag. They may not like the corruption, they may not like the economy, but if you threaten to attack their country, we're going to help the hardliners. We're not going to strike a blow for democracy.
Gentlemen,
I thank the witnesses, and I go back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes the Vice Chairman of the subcommittee, Mr. Russell, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, Rubin is ready to fight.
Oh,
Mr. Rubin, he mad.
shortly after the Iran deal was
Yeah, I heard he mad at the last guy, Welch.
his administration made statements that Iran would be
Now here come the Republican guy. He gonna be
financial and economic markets.
this nice, smooth guy.
Secretary of the Treasury Jack Lew reinforced this policy. Another Treasury official stated that Iran would be, quote, unable to deal in the world's most important currencies. That was Adam Zubin. Earlier today, America learned through a Senate investigation that President Obama's administration issued a license to deal in U.S. currency conversion with of Omani reals at a bank in Muscat, that they could convert these billions of dollars, billions of reals into billions of dollars and then euros, giving blanket access and providing key Iranian flow of funds that could be used for funding extremism and other troubling activity. Unfortunately, no U.S. bank wished to comply with such an authorization. They were fearing fallout not only in the financial industry, but they were fearing violation of current U.S. sanctions law. I guess my question, as we debate this handshake agreement, it was not an agreement with the American people. It was not done through a treaty. It was not done through consent of Congress when we had bipartisan, overwhelming resistance to the Iran deal. I guess my question would be this, first to Dr. Walsh, a series of basic questions to frame up activity of Iran I think is important here. Should we curtail proliferation of terrorism or promote it?
Well, considering, Mr. Vice Chair, that I've spent virtually all my professional career working to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons.
Well, gas prices gonna go up anyway because the gas prices they gonna go up anyway because they do it always for the travel season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, 4th of July, all that gas prices gonna go up. I have been telling people that.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of, gonna be a whole lot of travel. People using them big old grocery things, you know.
Yeah, they pulling out the Iran deal because Iran's not gonna bargain.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finna work with North Korea now. They got their press.
Congressional Research Services never said it, and I was unable in a
it sure
survey
going
of
up.
1,000 media stories.
Well, should we encourage this cooperation or deny it? We do know that
Yeah.
Cooperation, I guess, is what I'm saying.
North
But
Korea,
Them
Iran,
call
and Syria,
that
I
sure
think
enough
that
gonna
there's
happen.
overwhelming evidence that there was
You playing
cooperation.
along
Nuclear
just a
nuclear
tip.
cooperation. Sure, we can talk offline.
Uh-huh.
No, my long distance I got is from here to the house. That long enough.
You ain't kidding.
Iran's neighbors, so should we curtail that?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Despite Section 2, which had, by the way, 52 players that I identified and put on a deck of cards. And we were able to work with President Obama's Treasury administration to restore some of these back to the sanctions list. However, listening to all of the pundits for this agreement, they stated that there was no problem giving Soleimani and many of these industries and others sanctions relief.
Well, the intelligence community has said that sanctions relief did not go in large measure to the
Oh,
military.
we know
And
they use
They can just keep rising the prices on cigarettes and people just keep buying them.
Should we weigh
Yeah.
international and national
I think Illinois, we the highest
on
in
monetary
cigarette.
exchange regarding
You know, probably how long
Cook County, right? You know, people they drive through the county.
I tell you.
That's why loose cigarette sales out here is worth more than people selling that than drugs.
That's true.
People in jail right now selling loose cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
Ability to acquire
Oh, no.
nuclear weapons.
I see.
Yeah.
So,
Trying to
all
get
the
money
other things
forever.
notwithstanding, we should undermine the credibility in our record on human rights. We should undermine the credibility of the United States when it comes to standing up for other peoples. We should undermine our allies.
What the hell to find nobody not trying to
Well,
smoke?
we're undermining allies.
Yeah, that's why we lucky. We didn't have that problem.
One thing is crystal clear.
Mhm.
When you make an agreement that the American people are overwhelmingly against, we're talking 60% plus. How do I know this? Just by numbers on the board through elected
Yeah,
representatives.
none of the kids smoke.
This was a bad deal. It made us
Bobby,
less secure.
no.
And we hear testimony after testimony
None of
from
them
our
smoke.
neighbors, our allies, and others, and yet we're led to believe that we're making the world less secure.
Right.
Having the United States credibility undermined
That's why
makes the world
when
less
Larry
secure.
used to come over here and they go and buy them little,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's
Thank you.
time's expired.
Little cigar thing.
Recognizes the gentleman
That
from
pinch.
Georgia, Mr. Height, for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
they
and
got
I
a
would
pinch
like to
off.
associate myself with your
They
remarks earlier.
called, I think called like a $1.20 thing.
That President Trump made the right decision in this.
Go up the edge and get them
Iran
things,
deal
we
was
coming to him,
flawed.
pinching off, sitting up in
From
here
the start.
pinching.
We needed a better
I
agreement.
said, boy, that's ridiculous, that's somebody really
Stronger
hard up.
agreement now. And we cannot idly sit by while.
See, line across the street, smoke, still smoke, so I don't know what we got,
And all
too,
the
I
things
guess.
that you have mentioned here today. Dr. Rubin, let me start with you with this. What kind of threat does Hezbollah and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard pose to Israel?
It poses an overwhelming threat.
There go Rube. He calm now. He got a Republican up there. He that calm.
For all the Jews in the world to relocate to Israel because it would save them the trouble of hunting them down and killing them elsewhere.
All right, so we have a serious threat. What can the U.S. do to support Israel against this threat?
The Iranian strategy is voiced by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to try to overwhelm Israeli missile defenses just by sheer number of missiles which are in Hezbollah or perhaps Hamas hands. The preventive action would be to continue to support the interdiction of any missiles or missile parts. When it came to the aircraft deal, I should note that Iran, if you calculate the number of seats that Iran Air has and you compare it to the Boeing and Airbus deal, Airbus and Boeing were prepared to give Iran more than 3 times the annual capacity of Iranian flights, putting them on scale of Qatar Airlines or Korean Air. So clearly it wasn't in that case about passenger safety, which is why encouraging companies to scale up aid, which could go to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, is wise if our goal is to constrain the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
All right, and you mentioned the air. What about the naval aggression of Iran? What should be our role there?
With regard to the naval aggression, our presence matters. Now, I differentiate between our presence in general and our aircraft carrier presence. But when President Obama, for very good reasons, talked about a pivot to Asia, what many people in the Persian Gulf heard was a pivot away from us. And so psychologically, there's a sense of abandonment among some of our GCC allies. Now, the reason I talk about taking aircraft carriers and pushing them more into the Arabian Sea is just to neutralize the threat posed by Iranian small boat swarming tactics, where they can reach us, but we can't reach them. Where they can reach us, we can reach them from the Arabian Sea. They can't retaliate against us.
So a stronger presence, be it our carriers or whatever, would that, am I hearing you saying that would be a change from the Obama administration's approach?
Between 2003 and 2011, we had on average 1 carrier strike group in the Persian Gulf. Between 1991 and 2003, we had 1. Between 2003 and 2011, we had on average 2. What I'm saying is we should continue with the destroyers and cruisers and amphibious LHDs in the Persian Gulf, but the aircraft carriers remain outside.
All right, Mr. Goldberg, let me go to you. In your written testimony, you described a maximum pressure strategy using multiple lines of effort there. What further sanctions do we need, in your opinion, and how do we know that these sanctions, financial sanctions, are working?
Well, I appreciate the question, Congressman, and thank you all for your leadership on this in the past. It's going to be very important for this subcommittee and for other members to conduct oversight over our enforcement to make sure that we actually do have a maximum pressure campaign that succeeds. We need to measure this by the liquidity crisis in Iran, the access of the regime to cash, to hard dollars, to hard euros. What we saw in the lead up to the JCPOA, really the lead up to the JPOA, the interim deal, was that under the central bank sanctions, the disconnection of Iranian banks from SWIFT, the sectoral sanctions that Congress enacted, we saw enormous pressure and stress on the regime, a balance of payments crisis emerging and a liquidity crisis. Because the mullahs have so mishandled their economy, even under the sanctions relief provided by the JCPOA, the economy is already in crisis. Really, the timing of the reimposition of sanctions for a maximum pressure campaign couldn't be better. The rial is in free fall in Iran. And so as we cut off banks from doing business with Iranian banks, as we pressure SWIFT to ensure that they disconnect Iranian banks as well, as all the sanctions come back online, it's very important for Congress to conduct oversight over that to make sure they're being enforced.
So has the withdrawal of this deal had any effect on other European companies doing business with Iran?
Absolutely.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
seen pretty much on a daily basis more and more companies, the larger ones get out. You may have seen today there was a lot of news reports of oil imports from Europe that have canceled due to our return of the oil sanctions. We've seen that the European Investment Bank, the Europeans were talking about maybe using the European Investment Bank as a replacement for private institutions to provide financing for those companies that wanted to continue in Iran. Those leaders said, you know what, we don't want any part of that. Iran is too risky, sanctions are too risky, we don't want to touch that. And I would point everyone to yesterday's speech by our Undersecretary for TFI at Treasury. She gave a great speech that really was an indictment of the Iranian regime's
it's almost time for
system.